On a grey October morning in Rennes, the capital of Brittany, an unusual crowd gathered in front of the region's administrative court to support this man. Daniel Cueff, mayor of the village of Longuet, was summoned for having banned the spraying of pesticides on crops within 150 meters of residential housing. A measure the state says does not fall under the authority of a mayor.
The Republic must absolutely protect residents from synthetic pesticides.
Products which more and more European citizens say are a threat to their health.
The way people are being poisoned is extremely serious. I wanted to show that there's an imminent danger when pesticides are used. And since the state is failing to do anything, we must implement the precaution principle that is in our Constitution.
Following the example of Daniel Cueff, many French mayors have taken similar measures. Some of them had come to support him that morning. They didn't know yet that the judges would cancel his ban on pesticides a few days later. Neither did the farmers who'd gathered that same morning in the village of Longuet. Tensions run high between residents worried about their health and farmers concerned about their economic survival. To comply with the European rule, the French state does plan to introduce a buffer zone between crops and homes. The main farmers' union says this could kill French agriculture.
In many parts of France, there was a time when people were allowed to build houses everywhere. If buffer zones are imposed, it means that all the farms in all the municipalities will be affected. And if these areas are no longer productive, how do we make them profitable?
The argument doesn't convince many of the villagers. Erwan is a beekeeper in Longuet. In recent years, like many of his colleagues, he suffered major losses, more than 60% of his beehives last year. The effect, he says, of pesticides, a time bomb.
We know that these products are volatile. We need to understand that when they are sprayed, only between 2 and 20% of the product will be absorbed by the plant. Everything else is going to be dispersed into the air or the groundwater. It will seep into the ground and it will enter the water table, so the impact can be much larger than a few meters around the field.
A few hundred meters from Erwan's beehives, Guillaume raises dairy cows. Part of the cereals used for their food is sprayed with pesticides. For him and many others, not using pesticides would mean bankruptcy.
If there are people telling us we're spreading poison, they should give us the solution if they have it. If I have to turn to less intensive farming in the short term with the cattle and surface that I have today, I won't be able to feed my animals properly, nor the population.
We meet the mayor of Longuet again in his village. He says the local farmers are not the ones to blame.
Farmers don't make a good living. They're economically fragile, not the people who sell pesticides. It's the chemical lobby we're attacking. It's them we're really angry against. And there's a real public health problem. I would even say it's a question of civil liberties. People cannot accept having to breathe in certain products against their will.
Longuet has long been known for its eco-friendly approach. Organic food, solar energy, recycling. Sustainable development is a priority.
The waste from the school canteen is recycled by the hens.
Hélène is one of the inhabitants of Longuet who had their urine tested for the presence of glyphosate, a herbicide recognized as potentially causing cancer by the World Health Organization.
We are very careful. We grow organic products. We don't use detergents or household products, and despite all that, our glyphosate levels are high. The rates of the children are the highest, so we're asking ourselves questions.
The debate goes far beyond Longuet. Mathieu grows cereals a few miles away. The prospect of buffer zones between his fields and nearby houses worries him.
There's a house on one side Houses on the other side. If we're no longer able to spray crops, it will affect our productivity.
Farmers are already doing their best to protect residents, he says, and new measures are not justified.
I wanted to show you some documents, in particular this one, which was delivered to me after being trained. It allows us to use phytosanitary products, and it's proof that we use them wisely, and we don't just do whatever. We'll not use treatments when there's wind, because there'll be a drift. These are products that are expensive. We won't just spray them around anyhow.
Nonetheless, several farmers have been diagnosed with cancers that were recognized as occupational diseases. And more residents are blaming their health problems on pesticides. I head for our last meeting in the village of Larchant, an hour's drive away from Longuette. The life of Catherine Fargeas was turned upside down when the meadows surrounding her house were replaced by corn crops.
Here we have the field that is sprayed, about 2 hectares, and then my house just down there, and the courtyard that forms a basin and collects the rain, and the treatment and manure residues every year for the last 9 years.
3 years ago, Catherine developed several non-cancerous tumours and many allergies and hormonal disorders. Her youngest daughter suffers from a serious joint disease. Catherine doesn't have proof yet, but she and her doctors are sure of it. Pesticides are to blame.
We only started hearing about environmental poisoning in June 2018.
Catherine has filed a complaint against the farmer who exploits the fields and the companies hired for the spraying. She also accuses local authorities of having done nothing aside from advising her to move out, and slams the government's proposal to set the minimum distance between homes and the spray zones at 5 to 10 meters.
I cannot accept that people, even if it's the government, can say that spraying at 5 meters is okay. The crops are 9 meters away from us and we're intoxicated and it's destroying our lives. The most important thing for us now is to leave this place, to try and get better, knowing here things can only get worse.